am I calling? Lonely voices talking to me. Now I'm gone, now I'm gone, now I'm gone. And my mother told me, son, let it be. Sold my soul to the calling.
Just nice to meet you.
Hi, Rudy. Nice to meet you. Rudy, Matt.
Nice to meet you.
Matt, nice to meet you. Dylan. Matt, nice to meet you. Jacob.
Monsieur Tremblay, Madame Damonte, congratulations. You're 1 month away from your retirement, and you've worked your whole life to achieve this point, where you're able to be financially independent and travel around the world. And what you want to leave behind too, once this retirement's over, is your legacy, that you want to carry this forward to your children and the causes that you support. And that's where we can help. My name is Rudy. These are my colleagues Dylan and Ivana, and we are Drive Consulting, your personal finance advisors for the next 20 minutes. So we're here today to develop a financial plan for both Monsieur Tremblay and Madame Damonte in terms of their retirement income, their estate planning, and their fixed asset, the sale of their fixed assets with minimal tax impact. So we see some key challenges right away. In the short term, for the estate plan, we need to establish a will and have life insurance in place to make sure that when that time comes, everything is taken care of. For the investments, right now, we're looking to recommend a more suitable risk profile for both you and your spouse, and pay down that high interest debt that you're facing. In terms of the long term, this is where you plan for the in terms of long-term income, this is where you plan to have that steady stream of income going forward into your retirement, to minimize the taxes on the sale of your real estate and the business that you have, and plan to leave your inheritance to the children and the causes that you support. So our recommendations are to reallocate your investments to yield more stable returns according to where you are right now, to set up a trust to defer the taxes with the sale of the fixed assets, to purchase additional life insurance on your existing policy, and to establish an estate plan by creating a will, a probated will, to make sure that everything is taken care of when that time comes. The impact of our recommendation is over $1.6 million in tax savings, $3.2 million that you'll be able to give to your children, your grandchildren, and $500,000 to the charitable causes that you support. So let's dive right into the analysis. We see that you have certain financial goals that we'd like to take to guide us throughout the whole recommendation. So for retirement, you're looking for a retirement plan that allows you to retire in a month and travel for the next 10 years based on your current income habits. For housing, this is where you're looking to sell one of your residence in Montreal and purchase a smaller condo for your retirement days while keeping the cottage you got in Tremblant. For business, this is where we're looking to sell your current business in a tax-efficient manner. And for the estate plan, this is establishing a will and a mandate to make sure that everything is taken care of once that time comes. So these goals will really guide the recommendation moving forward. So if we take a look right now at your current asset allocation, we see that you're at a 40% fixed income, 60% equity, which is great throughout your working years. But right now, as you ease into retirement, you're looking for something that's more stable, a higher percentage of fixed income that's going to yield that stable return over your years. And that looks at about 4.5% net of fees. So we see here, another key point is that you're currently invested in ethical funds. And that's something that you must find true to you, that you invest in companies that you believe in, that you associate with the cause. And that's what we're looking to keep forward in the recommendation in your investments with whatever funds you choose. So this new, we recommend a new allocation that shifts more towards fixed income investments based on your current situation right now before your retirement. If we take a look at your current financial standing, we see that your net income is about $84,000 per year, and you have about $1.1 million in fixed assets between the two of you in terms of your real estate. And you have operating assets of $2.6 million, which is majority of the business and the management company that you own. But we see here the key takeaway is you have a $4.2 million stake in assets. So this is a huge stake in assets. You have this high net worth that will allow you to remain financially independent moving forward, and you want to maximize these assets for your legacy moving forward. We also see that you have insurance coverage of $250,000, which will not be enough given your retirements, and we'll get to that a little more in the recommendation. You have low liabilities right now of about $12,000 that can be paid off. And we see the key picture here is that you have a very strong financial standing, and it allows you to retire and remain financially independent. So in terms of the tax consideration, when you sell your business, you'll be taxed. And you want to minimize those taxes as much as possible. And so we have to take that into account moving forward. We also see that your primary residence must be declared to avoid the taxes on the sale itself. And then the tax planning on the future, so the sale of the condo, etc., the purchase of the condo must be taken into account also. So there are actions that you can take to reduce your tax bill when all this goes in place. In terms of your insurance and risk management, we see you have a last to die policy of $250,000. But this policy is not enough to cover your expected expenses upon death. So this is, you need to have additional life insurance that'll cover off you'll be able to have the tax benefits from that additional life insurance that you can afford right now to save whoever you leave your estate to from that tax implications. So your current insurance policy is not enough for your needs. Now, in terms of the retirement and estate planning, you're expecting to retire in a month, and you have expected cost of retirement of $87,000 per year. And you're not currently married, so what we need to take into account is have a probated will put in place and created, so that once the time comes, that everything is clear with what assets go to who. So we want to make sure that you also have precautions in place for incapacity, such as a mandate or power of attorney, to make sure that if in case that happens, you're able to be proactive about it, and you're not fighting the tax man for those assets that they might claim back. So this stronger retirement and estate plan will give you peace of mind moving forward, and that's the key right here is peace of mind. These investments might seem expensive year over year, but what they do is they give you stability and peace of mind moving forward into your retirement. And now I'd love to pass on the floor to Dylan to walk you through our recommendation.
Thank you, Rudy. So when it came to the recommendations after our analysis, we saw that these were the major points that we can improve on and set you on the right financial path for the rest of your lives. So we actually broke them down into individual sections and tackled them individually to provide actual practical recommendations moving forward. The first one is the new investment portfolio. As stated previously, we want to change your investment portfolio over to a more balanced, more fixed income in the current situation. So to do that, we change the percentage of your current portfolio, and it would actually increase your yield overall to 5.2% from the 4.7% in the previous investment portfolio. This will also, with the current split, actually allow you to hedge any associated risks that you would have, whether it be foreign currencies or locations brought into consideration. So it will actually increase your annual yield doing this new portfolio and remove the excess risks that would have been taking place by holding more equity rather than fixed assets themselves. When it comes to the financial plannings, there were multiple elements that we took into consideration and changed. The first one is paying off your credit card balance. The impact that this will have is that you'll forego those interest payments. You have the necessary cash on hand, and there's no need to pay these interest payments out of pocket every single period. Let's write off that debt right off the bat and pay off these credit cards. The next amount is the reallocation of the investment to better suit your financial goals. So as previously shown, we shifted your portfolio to be more balanced 50-50 rather than 60-40. This will ensure long-term longevity and more constant cash flows in the long term, something that's more common in retirement to go towards. The other aspect is setting up a trust for the cash generated by the sale of the company. The impact that this is going to have is savings on future capital gains upon death itself. Also, with the setup of the company, which we'll run through in a later slide, we'll show you how you can actually purchase the condo within this trust itself and forgo any of the tax considerations upon death. The trust would automatically move to your families without having to pay the capital gains associated with it. We'll walk you through that shortly. And the last thing is buying the condo under the trust, as previously mentioned, so that the transfer of the assets can be done smoothly upon death later on. For the tax saving plans, how you're exactly going to save the $1.6 million or above that was stated previously, the first one has to do with designating a primary residence. Now you do have two homes, the one in Montreal and the one in Tremblant. You did state that you wanted to sell the Montreal home currently, but it would actually be more advantageous in the long term to designate Tremblant as the principal resident, because the capital gain per year, which must be done in evaluating these circumstances, is $20,000 versus $13,000. So in the long term, if you do designate Tremblant as the primary residence, upon sale of that property, all the capital gains associated with the property will be zero. So you will need to pay taxes on the Montreal residence, but in the long term, this has more longevity to it and more financially sustainable. When it comes to the sale of the business itself, one of our recommendations is to use the capital gains allowance, the $800,000 per individual. So there was some of it that was previously used in the past. So this will cause $1.3 million of tax savings itself. But the second element to add to this is actually to set up payment plans for the shares. So you're not going to give up all the shares right away. You'll slowly transfer the shares while getting capital, because we built it in that later on in your retirement, that will be a source of income and you'll be taxed at a lower rate associated with it. So putting these payment plans is essential. Another thing is taking advantage of tax credit for charitable donations. Yes, this might be small, but in the long term it will allow you to give more to charity because you are saving on the taxes involved with it. So to walk you through a little bit of the trust that we recommended you setting up, obviously right now you do have one company. What you would be creating is the holding company and the trust itself. By having companies, you're not only protecting yourself from any risk associated with it, you also have tax deferral and income splitting by setting up not only yourselves, but you can also set up your family members as beneficiaries to the trust. You can pay them income in the long term and have it taxed at the lower rates. Also, any income that's earned through investment in the holding company will only be taxed at a smaller rate, not at your current rates. So if you are considered a small business, it will only be the federal rate of 11%, excuse me, and the Quebec rate at 8% taxes. So overall, creating the holding companies will be beneficial in the long term, also the trust associated with it for the residency. When it comes to insurance and risk management, so currently, as my colleague stated, you don't have the $2 million needed in the insurance itself. So to allow this, we recommend that you do invest in a new plan. This will make sure that in the case of passing away, you will have the necessary funds for your family to continue with their current lifestyle. For the estate planning, developing the will itself and a mandate is beneficial to ensure that your assets are allocated in your best wishes and they go to the people who you want and how you want it. And this will be beneficial in the long term and could mitigate any family fighting upon death itself. So now that we've looked at the recommendations, we'll actually walk you through how it should be implemented, which my colleague will go over shortly.
So if we just look at implementation, first of all, I want to show you a glance of what your future is going to look like. So my colleague introduced that upon that, you would have about 4 million assets, right, if you retire with the current situation as you're going by yourself. But with the recommendations we have given you today, we see your net worth increasing significantly. What's going to happen is that you're going to have 7 million assets. And as you have insurance policy, although part of your assets will be taxed upon death, the insurance policy will offset the effect. So what's going to happen is that you're going to have $500,000 available for donations, or you can even increase the amount if you wish. And you're going to have $3.3 million worth left for your inheritance, for your grandchildren and your children, which is significantly higher than the initial amount you would have if you would just follow your current path. So if you just want to look at implementation, what steps should you take right now as well as in the future? So to start off, this is a plan for the next 12 months. So if you just look at the goal is to prepare for your retirement and set up the requirements for the estate plan, because you want to be able to just go on your retirement and enjoy your time, go to your arts, buy your antiquaries, travel, and do the things that please you. So first of all, the first thing is the estate plan. So right away, you should go with a notary, set up an estate, and also buy the additional insurance, which we have already calculated the additional cost into your plan and your financials. You will be proceeding with the sale of the business gradually, and you will be setting up a gradual payment so that you're paying less taxes, and you're going to set up the trust. For the initial cash amount that you're going to receive from the sale portion of your house as well as the business, you're going to put it in a trust. So this is the next 12 months. It's going to be a busy 12 months, but it's going to allow you to live well afterwards. And then finally, the smaller changes also is to reallocate your portfolio, to set up a tax payment plan as well as the sale of your real estate. So you're going to be dealing with a real estate agent and maybe he's looking into selling your house in the next year. So finally, this is going to be allow you to protect your capital so that you know that you can retire in peace, and that your children, your grandchildren will have money upon when the time comes, and you'll be able to give them the money. And you're going to also pay a lot less taxes through the tax savings of your business as well as your real estate, the way we have structured it for you. We can go through financials later, of course. Sorry. And in the long term, also, this is for your retirement. As you said, you would like us to plan for the future. So we have taken this in account and want you to make sure that you can travel and have the financials. So we set inheritance, so each of your grandchildren and kids will get an average of $370,000, and you're going to be able to donate between the Canadian Cancer Society and the Laval University about $500,000. Of course, you can always change the amounts if you wish to reallocate more towards your family versus the charitable donations and vice versa. But the key takeaway is that you have enough money, your children will have money, and you'll be limiting taxes payable to the minimum possible upon your death. And just as a conclusion, so once again, this plan allows you to have all your goals achieved and have an enjoyable retirement through the reallocation of your investments, as well as the set of the trust for the further taxes and the purchase of additional life insurance. So all of these plans together, the key thing is that you're doing well. You have the money necessary. You can retire right now, of course, but you want to make sure if you already have these assets and there's a more efficient way to use these assets and to make it better off your family in the future, you should be taking the steps to do so. And it won't actually require as much. It's not time consuming, it's not so difficult to do so. It might require a few hours in the next year, but you'll be able to do this, and you're going to be maximizing, almost doubling the wealth that you're leaving to your family and charitable donations upon your death. And that's a key important factor. So we're really achieving this goal. And if you ever have any other questions, of course, we have appendices to justify, see how your expenses are going to fluctuate throughout the years. So just with this point, I just want to conclude with showing you once again with our plan, you'll be having a lot of tax savings, over $1.6 million. You'll be able to donate your charities, and you're leaving enough estate for your family. And upon this, I will just pass on to Rudy for the last sentence.
Yeah. So we were your personal finance advisors for the last 20 minutes, and we hope that you can take away that you're in a great spot right now, that you're able to retire comfortably, to travel the world, and leave behind a legacy to your family. And we're confident that our recommendations right here today are what will get you to that next level and make you comfortable, stable, and ready to retire in that month as happy as can be. So we'd like to thank you so much for your time today, and we're looking forward to questions.
Can you explain to me what would be our source of income during our retirement? How are we going to pay ourselves?
So there's two elements to this. You have the RRSPs that you're actually contributing to, so you can pull capital out of that. Also with the payment plan for the business, that will be a major source of income. So we recommended that out of the $2.5 million that you would receive, your wife would take on would sell her share outright, and then you would sell only a portion of it, equal to about $750,000. The rest of that money, the over $1 million there, would actually be pulled out in subsequent years by transferring small amounts of shares over that period. So that's where most of the net income will take place.
Life insurance. I'm not sure I understood why I need $2 million in universal life insurance. Since you're saying at the end that we have inheritance of about $3.2 million. So that seems a lot of money. That seems a lot of coverage. Have you done some kind of analysis, and can you explain why you recommend $2 million in purchasing life insurance?
Absolutely. So the key thing is to understand that as you, if it was some time to come when you're passing away, you're leaving $7 million worth of assets. So if you just look right here, it's actually the breakdown. So we'll see that you have your condo, you have your Montreal Blanche cottage, right? You will have cash left in non-registered accounts. And any assets you pass on to your children that are outside of the holdings will be taxable, and they'll be have to be paying tax on that. So we're assuming out of the $5 million assets you'll be transferring, they'll be paying tax on that. So the $2 million will help you offset the tax effect, so they can actually have a higher value.
So after paying taxes, they will be left with $3.2 million.
After paying taxes on the insurance as well as your assets outside the holdings.
Okay. So if we decide that 3.2 is too much of an inheritance, then we could decide to cut down on life insurance.
Certainly, yes. That's your discretion.
Okay.
With regards to the portfolio and asset allocation, knowing that there's a significant amount that can't fit in a TFSA and can't fit in an RSP, how is the division of the new allocated funds going to be distributed with the gains that will be made? How do you guys see the setup with the non-registered TFSA and RSP contributions? Where do you see those gains coming from?
So the way we proceed is that we wanted to look at really, this is the client, this is his network, this is his portfolio. So it includes his holding company, which would have a portfolio account. It would include his TFSA, the both RSPs, and non-registered accounts. So when we look at asset allocation, it's really based on all of the accounts together. Of course, we would like to minimize the tax implications short term. So if you have income generating assets, you would put them in a registered account for the short term, so you want to defer taxes. And then if you have more capital gains that you keep over more long term, so more valuable investments that you'll be selling in future years, you would put them in non-registered accounts.
Thanks very much. Thank you to all three of you.
Thank you.
Okay.
To a sweet melody.